Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes, and I have some notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice, or support it by visiting patreon.com/IHaveSomeNotes. Well, a week has passed, which means, of course, one of us is sick again.
It's me.
Seems to be the case. Alternates back and forth.
Our daughter is still little. She got sick. She doesn't know enough yet to cover her mouth every single time she coughs. And so I was coughed at right in the face a bunch of times while trying to look after her while she was sick. So it became inevitable that I would get sick.
And so you are.
And here we are.
Yeah, so this is going to be the episode where Anita sounds rough.
I'm sorry, I have a cold in my nose.
Yeah. So we won't belabor this episode so that Anita can go rest.
Thank you.
And we'll start quickly with a brief recap of our previous chapter, Chapter 6, in which Dani begins planning a heist back at her new old home and fields a couple phone calls, one from Brad Hackworth with a little more light flirting, and one from the Correctional Institute informing her that her mother has summoned her. And that leads us into Chapter 7 of The Frame-Up by Gwenda Bond. So we're now 7 days out from the heist.
1 week.
Yep. And Dani decides to go and see her mother.
And honestly, by the time we got to the end of the chapter, I do not understand why.
We'll get to that. Because she does make a stop first.
Yeah.
She wants to figure out what bank this safety deposit key is for. Because she's
the one
also...
she found in the wall.
Yeah, because she's also realized it can't be a coincidence that she found it. It was definitely something that was planted to be used. The only problem is she doesn't know what lock it fits in.
No.
So she tries one of the local banks and basically...
the one that's on the way, specifically.
And goes in and is like, hey, I'm trying to clear out an old estate. Is this one of your safety deposit box keys? And the guy at the desk is like, no, that's not us. You might want to try this other bank. And then the lady who's next to him totally recognizes her.
Yeah.
And is like, oh, you're that person.
That's her.
And Dani gets, like, weird about it.
This whole interaction was strange.
Yeah.
At least to me, it felt weird.
Dani kind of, like, is, oh, you're a true crime fan, are you? And then, like, takes one of her tchotchkes and, like...
throws it in the garbage.
Yeah. Just to kind of be mean. And on... like, her first instinct is, I feel proud that I kind of stood up for myself there and I wasn't going to take crap from that lady. And then her second impulse was, oh, that was actually a really impulsive and childish thing to do. And that's exactly what got me in trouble with my mother in the first place. So that puts me in a great headspace to go and speak with her.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I did not understand what happened in that bank at all. Like, what?
She got offended by the woman gawking at her.
Yeah, but what?
And then she tried to pull a power move and ended up looking really childish.
Right? It was so weird.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
It was pretty weird. And that indeed puts her into a great headspace to go and see her mother, which she does next. And I just want to say right off the bat, if I had a bad first impression of Maria based on everything we know about her up until this point, she did nothing to change that in this interaction with her daughter. She's kind of the worst.
So I read the chapter first this time, and the first thing I wrote in my notes is... so Maria is terrible, and I have no idea why Dani wants to see her or have anything to do with her at all. Then Scott read the chapter, and the second he closed the book, he's like, so Maria is terrible. She is the worst, and I hate her. And I was like, I agree.
Yeah, like, I don't know for certain who the villain is in this piece yet, but if it turned out to be Maria, I wouldn't be surprised.
My God, what a horrible woman.
Before we even get into the play-by-play of this interaction, there is something that you said to me that has sat with me since we mentioned it. Because we didn't talk about it in length, because obviously we want to save most of our chat about the chapter for the episode. We try not to pre-talk about stuff as much as we can.
Try to. I frequently stop these conversations with be like, we should save this for the recording.
Yeah. But there was something that you said to me, and it was that Dani doesn't have a mom. She has a boss.
Oh, yeah. I wrote that down in my notes, too.
Yeah.
All Dani wants is a mother. What she has is a boss.
And that comes across in this chapter.
Right?
Because Maria is not very motherly.
She's the worst. I should warn all of our listeners right now, the rest of this recording is just going to be us complaining about Maria, I'm sure.
Yeah. She welcomes Dani into the medical facility. She's handcuffed to
her bed.
And she's guarded at all times, we find out, by two people, because it is known that she has a knack for manipulation. Yeah. And that if she's left alone with someone, she has a real ability to persuade them to do stuff that she wants. And that's her magic ability. And we already knew that.
Yeah.
Because Dani has made that clear in the past, that Maria's very good at convincing people to do things.
Yes.
There are limitations to her powers. It wears off, for one.
Yep. And apparently Dani is kind of immune. I assume that that's a relation thing.
That could be a relation thing. Or Dani just thinks she's immune, which would actually be kind of even worse in a way.
That's even worse.
But as far as we understand, Dani appears to be immune. So Maria is guarded at all times. But we do find out that she got attacked when it pained her heart to do this, convinced someone who is in for just a smash and grab to stab her, which means that she ruined someone's life to see Dani today.
Yep.
Because that person just got upgraded to attempted murder.
Well, I don't know about attempted murder. Assault, at least.
Yeah. So she just made that person's chances of parole go away. And, it pained her to do it. She feels so bad.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So she's manipulative.
And the worst.
Her first question to Dani is, are you sleeping with Archer?
Well, technically, the first thing she says to Dani is like, are you going to sit down? Like, so hard. Yeah. And then the second thing, she's like, you better not be sleeping with Archer. What?
And Dani's
hello.
like, hello.
Nice to see you too.
Hello to you too, Mom. Also, she uses much more crude language that we will not repeat on our family-friendly podcast.
No.
Which Dani also mentions, is a sign that something has changed about her mom in prison. Because Maria, previous to this, studiously considered herself above swearing.
Yes. Did not like vulgarities.
Indeed. So this is something that actually catches Dani a little off guard. But when Dani assures her, no, I'm not sleeping with Archer. What are you talking about?
Ew.
Maria basically lets spill, I got moved here so that I could help you plan this heist so you don't mess it up.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we find out that Maria is just as invested in Archer getting this portrait as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants this portrait.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to know what the deal is with this portrait. Okay. Maria's use of language here is awful. And so very telling, right? She wants Dani to be thankful for Archer because he's the one who convinced Maria to have this baby.
Oh, yeah.
Dani.
There's a fun little tidbit. Maria straight up tells Dani in this chapter, I didn't want you.
More or less.
Archer talked me into having you.
Yeah, you should be thankful to him. What?
Wow, thanks for that backhanded piece of information.
Well, and which stems from Dani asking if Archer
is her father.
And Maria's like, no. And on the one hand, I was like, thank God. And then on the other hand, I was like, what is happening? Who is this guy? And what kind of weird associations does he have with all of these people? Maria knows what's going on, mentions nothing to Dani.
Oh, yeah. Maria...
no explanation whatsoever.
Maria definitely knows more about the score than Dani does, but doesn't in any way offer up any information.
No, why would she? That would be helpful.
Yeah. All she basically does is scold Dani for being incautious because she appeared in the newspaper.
Right.
And assure her that she's going to be around to help her plan it so that she doesn't mess it up. And informs her that she's put in a call to Rabbit, and Rabbit will work with her now.
Now, this is where the choice of language slapped me in the face.
I have released them.
I have released them. What? Oh.
Yeah, which means that it was Maria keeping them from...
Yeah.
It was Maria was actively keeping Dani... Away from everyone she's ever known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she is the worst.
Because she was being, I assume, petty.
Her language is just so hateful.
And passive-aggressive.
So very passive-aggressive. It's awful.
Yeah, she's the worst.
Yeah.
Don't like her.
Well, okay. I'm going to try to put my hate aside for a moment and talk a little bit about what we kind of sort of have learned about Archer, but not really. Maria asks where Archer found Dani. And she answers St. Louis. And then Maria's reply to that is, oh, he'll be recovering. What does that mean? Recovering from what?
Maybe Archer's ability is that he can find things, which might make him very useful as a person who lines up heists.
Right? And that is exhausting?
Could be. We don't know if doing magic takes things out of people. Yeah. We kind of speculated that Archer's power wasn't similar to Maria's. Number one, because why would you team up with someone who has the same power as you? Doesn't make sense to me. But number two, Archer had already kind of implied that he doesn't need persuasion magic to persuade. He's the kind of guy who knows the right ears, who can grease the right palms, who has the resources to make things happen, that he doesn't need Maria's magic to do that.
But he still needs someone to pull off this heist because he can't do it himself.
Well, no, it's not just that. He needs Maria for other skills than just her power of persuasion.
Obviously.
Because obviously she's good at planning heists.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, being the master manipulator, it makes sense that she would be the mastermind.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's the planner. That makes sense. It's awful because I hate her, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's this almost a throwaway comment from Dani about how she did what she did. We're talking, like, I assume that means telling on her mom. Almost like to protect her mom from Archer because she was scared about what Archer was doing to her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super vague.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it means.
Don't know either. Hard to say.
So many more questions.
Archer's definitely not a good guy.
Obviously.
He's got machinations in play. And he's been thick as thieves with Maria for a long time, but it could be that he has his hooks in her.
I mean, maybe.
Like, he was influential enough with her that he was like, you should have a daughter. And she was like, okay.
Well, baby. He probably is in control of the gender.
Okay, fair enough. You should have a kid. And Maria was like, fine, if you say so. I don't have to like it, though. By it, I mean the baby in this case.
Yeah, and she clearly did not.
Nope.
Wow.
Like, the one time Dani remembers her mom being proud of her was the first time they did a heist together.
Yeah.
And again, you're right. It came across more like, I'm proud of my apprentice learning the trade as their boss than I'm proud of you as my daughter because I'm your mother. And Dani even kind of reads it that way. Like, it's messed up. She has a messed up relationship with her mom.
Again, all of my notes are just how awful Maria is. And then with seemingly no rhyme or reason at all, Maria decides she's done with the conversation.
Yeah, she dismisses her.
And she's like, hey, she doesn't even dismiss her. She's like, I'm ready. And they take her away.
Yeah, she dismisses her.
There was no goodbye. She's like, okay, we're done. Like, poor Dani is just emotionally brought now.
And no closer to understanding what's going on than before. Because again, Maria offered up nothing.
Yeah, all she knows is that now she's allowed to go back to the team and she should call Rabbit.
Yeah.
That's all we got out of this.
Mm-hmm.
This whole elaborate thing was just for Maria to scold her a little and be like, well, clearly you need some help. It like, this chapter left such a bad taste in my mouth. But like, in the good way. You know, Maria's one of those villains you love to hate.
Yeah.
Because she's just so awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She deserves to be in jail, and I hope she stays there.
Me too.
I realize that Dani's enacting this heist specifically to get her mom out of jail. I kind of think Maria deserves to be there and should stay there.
Agreed.
Yep.
I kind of hope they do it without her and be like, you know what? We don't need Maria. We were all miserable with her. Let's let her rot.
Well,
I would be okay with that at this point.
Do you want to walk with me into some truly irresponsible speculation?
Okay.
As you have pointed out, and as we have mentioned on the podcast at least once, the book is called The Frame Up. And so one would assume that there is going to be a frame up. And we observed as well that last chapter there appeared to be an entirely separate group of thieves who were also casing the Fortress of Art.
Yes.
What are the chances that Archer and Maria hired Brenner and the evil twins to do the heist and are using Dani and her heist as a smokescreen?
I mean, it's possible.
That Maria is actually setting up her daughter, who she knows is a screw-up, as a scapegoat.
Based on this initial interaction, I would not put it past her. Like, if the book actually goes that way, I'll be like, yeah, because Maria's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, irresponsible speculation.
We're so good at that.
This could very well not be the way that the book is going.
Probably not.
But, I mean, it's a book called The Frame Up.
Right?
And Dani was hired for a mysterious job, and nobody seems to be telling her what the real score is.
Like, it's probably clever wordplay because, art.
Well,
frames.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
It's all going to go south because why wouldn't it? And I'm just wondering where and how.
Well, and
mostly I'm just waiting for it.
And the more I think about it, too, like, Dani's the perfect scapegoat. If something goes missing on her watch, who's going to be the first person suspected? The daughter of the famous art thief who was brought in last minute as chief of security.
Yeah. And if something goes missing, clearly she is not a very good chief of security.
Yeah. So, like, it will all end up pointing at her, no matter how good her heist plan is.
Yes.
So, yeah, it really does. It's starting to feel like maybe Dani's being set up to fail.
Yes. I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
It really does.
Which might mean that Archer's portrait might not even be the real target. Hard to say.
Maybe?
Though I suspect it is.
I suspect it is too because everybody seems to want it.
Yeah.
The magical people want it because they can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
They know it's the important piece.
And the non-magical people can just feel that it's special.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe. Unless Rose is more magic than we're giving her credit for.
I really want to know why Rose wants it.
We'll probably find out. Perhaps as soon as next chapter, as we move into chapter 8.
Yes.
You'll want to read up on that in time for next week. In the meantime, of course, as always, you can give us a little rating and a review.
Because we appreciate those. Thank you.
We do. You can also send us messages through the ether of the internet via social media.
Yes, please. If you could put some like healing vibes in those so that my nose clears up and I can breathe again, that would be great. Someone could figure that out. Send your healing vibes via Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Goodreads. We are at the Read Along for most of those.
Yes, you can also send us an email.
Oh, yes, please. You can reach us at thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Abba go blow by dose.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.